Hello everyone, this is Trevor. Today's video I'll be talking on peace and truth. But before I get into that, let me just a little timeline of how I view doing these videos and stuff. I'm thinking of starting to do maybe things like this, like 10, 20-ish minutes, shorter videos that are more just on the spot. Once a week, maybe every Sunday, Monday, weekend time period. But yeah, I think I'll get into it. So just a few days ago, this past Saturday, I went to the Nagasaki Peace Park, and it's a really great place. So this is in Nagasaki City, Japan, and it really moved me. I made a Instagram and Facebook post. So let me just read one of the first inscriptions you come across. At the Peace Park is this spring. This water is shooting out of this created pond, and there's a like black granite, if that's what you'd call it, block in front of it that has this written in Japanese. So I'll read the Japanese and then I will go into my translation of it, what I did of it. So here's the Japanese. So I'll read it a little faster because I'm assuming most people don't know. But anyways, 喉が渇いてたまりませんでした。水には油のようなものが一面に浮かいていました。どうしても水が欲しくて、とうとう油の浮かいたまま飲みました。あの日のある症状の敵から。And then my English translation of it. My throat was so dry and I couldn't bear it any longer. There were thick lumps of something like oil floating in the water. I wanted the water so bad. I eventually drank the water, oil and all. Note from a girl that day. So that was really powerful. It was like, it hit me then, it's hitting me now. It's just like, it was a lot to take in. And so that was like the initial part, and then I was there with a friend and we walked around to the different monuments, and a lot of them are donated from different countries, offering their sentiments to world peace. So we walked around there for a while, and there's I forget the name of it. It's like this teal, bluish green statue of this giant man-like figure, I guess. And the statue, I think it's his left hand's like that, or this. I don't remember exactly, but it's I'm trying to match this with the camera, but it's like he's pointing up and that, and then he has his eyes closed. So that statue represents, the left hand is pointing to peace. The finger pointing up is pointing to nukes, to nuclear weapons, pointing out the danger of nuclear weapons. And then the statue has its eyes closed to signify respect, a meditation, a prayer for those who have died to nuclear weapons, and kind of hoping for world peace, I think is what the inscription next to the statue said. So, yeah, after I went around with my friend to all the different areas in the like the Peace Park itself, they actually have a black obelisk in a sort of park-like area, like across the street, like a block or two away. That is I think what they call the hypocenter of where the nuclear bomb went off in Nagasaki. According to the signs they had there, the nuclear bomb went off 200 meters above the spot where they have the monument. And yeah, it's just, I mean, the whole thing's really strange, but like to me, just, well, I'll get to that, but let me just keep telling the flow of it. So, you know, I'm taking some pictures of things, reading the signs they have there, and I notice my one friend's not with me. Usually we've been like going generally together, but I see he's talking with 3 Japanese ladies that I don't know. I think, oh, maybe he knows them, but no, it turns out he didn't. They were just three nice strangers, and we started having a conversation, and I don't remember everything, but I made this in the Instagram Facebook post I made. They asked one question in particular, was, do you think world peace is possible? And in the post I made, I feel kind of bad because I feel like I was kind of using my friend as a juxtaposition to my own position, so maybe I was strawmanning him a bit. But he did seem like to be inching towards, well, it's pretty difficult. I mean, look at the recent conflicts in the world, the ongoing conflicts. So he didn't give an answer, but he was giving that sort of vibe of like, no, it's not possible. I mean, if you were to feel where that vibe was going, and maybe that's a discredit to him, I don't mean to do that, but that's the vibe, that's the sense I got, is he was saying, well, it's very difficult. And then after, you know, he basically ended on that note, the lady who was talking, mainly asking this question, turned to me and asked me, do you think world peace is possible? And there wasn't any meandering. There wasn't any, oh, well, look at this, look at that. No, it was just, yes, I think world peace is possible. So in Japanese, how did she say it? I think I phrased it like, heiwa ga dekiru to omoimasu. Yeah, which would be like, I think peace is possible. I think it's possible for peace to exist. And then I don't know if she asked me to elaborate on, but maybe I just said it, and I put this in my posts as well. But basically, I think a major issue is that people want to do it the wrong way. They want the cake and they want to eat it too. Sometimes that works with some things, but this is not one of them. So the problem with just pointing at nukes and saying, oh, these are horrible, they're going to destroy humankind. The problem with that is that we can destroy ourselves with or without nukes. I mean, this isn't to get into like the Slaughterhouse, was it Slaughterhouse 5 or whatever, where it shows conventional bombing can be just as horrific as nuclear weapons. That it's not getting into that point, although that is certainly a point. The point I was trying to make is, even if you get rid of nukes and somehow you have international organizations that have sufficient stopping power and all of this stuff to like really make sure that everyone is really getting rid of it, and not you have a prisoner dilemma problem where you have a bad actor, a bad state, a bad country who is not doing that, and now they have a lot of power because they're the only ones with nukes now. That's in international relations terminology, that's what you'd call a realistic, like the philosophy of realism. It's a lot to do with military and the sort of power dynamics in regards to that, in a very, I guess you could say, more pragmatic sense, sort of like, well, if they have weapons that we don't, we're at a disadvantage. That's that sort of philosophy. And in the post, I didn't really go into that because that wasn't kind of the focus. But it gets into what's called the prisoner's dilemma. So the prisoner's dilemma is you have 2 people in a prison, right? And they both did some crime. And the police or whatever are saying, well, let's say they go to each person and they say, if you rat out your friend, or not even that, let's just say it this. So you have 2 people who did a crime together. If they both stay silent and they don't rat each other out, they will both only serve 1 year in prison. If one of them rats the other one out and the other one doesn't rat them out, the one who ratted them out and didn't get ratted out will go away. He's just let go. And the one who didn't rat out but got ratted out on will spend like 20 years in prison or 30 years in prison, something bad. And then if both of them rat out on each other, they'll both spend like 5 to 7 years in prison. So this is where you get into lose-lose situations where it is almost always better, unless if you really trust the other person, to rat each other out. Because you're either going to walk away and they're going to be stuck there, or you're both only going to serve 5 or 7 years, which is still a long time, but way less than 20 or 30. So this is, in the case of nuclear disarmament and nuclear weapons, this gets into the case where, well, let's say Russia, China, U.S., whoever who's saying let's disarm. Well, then one actor just has to not disarm, and now whoosh, they have a crazy military advantage. They could go invade you. They could go do all this. People are like, oh, no, that wouldn't happen. No, it could happen, and it is a concern. And why can't it happen? And this is where I got into the post, not as in depth because I could only write so much. I think I maxed the word limit. But basically, I'm losing my thought stream. Wait, so yeah, disarmament. Oh, why people aren't going to do it? Oh, it's because it's based in ego. And that's why I was saying, like I think the way I phrased it, I think I phrased it in a way where I wasn't saying ego. Because I know some people don't like that way of phrasing it. They think it's maybe like new agey or something. But where is it? Yeah, I said here. Let me just read this part from the post. So the good conversation was with 3 Japanese ladies. One of them asked my friend and I a question. Do you think that world peace is possible? My friend wavered, saying the complexities and chaos in the world. I said it straightforwardly. I believe world peace is possible. However, I said that the way towards peace is not through first trying to get rid of nuclear weapons. Prisoner's dilemma. The first step is in transforming ourselves as individuals into the kind of being such that nuclear weapons would disappear naturally. And some people, okay, so like, this needs a little elaboration, right? Because basically, I was saying it without having to default into ego talk, but imagine this. What is the root of wanting weapons, wanting a military? Security, right? And why do you need security? Because there's bad actors. Because there's people who will do bad things in the world. That's pretty well accepted. There's people who want to take your stuff and they want to kill you or murder you or rape you or abuse you. Yeah, that unfortunate truths. So what would happen then if all of these people got rid of their negativity? They let go of these negative desires. They let go of these things that make them bad actors, that would motivate them to go to war, motivate them to come try and kill you and take your stuff. Where is that coming from? Where's the root? And I think, in my experience, that root's the ego. And it's kind of maybe a long shot to think that, maybe even in my lifetime or whenever, that this could actually happen. But I still think it's possible for the world to, not necessarily like, even with myself for the past few months, I've been noticing like my ego's getting like, I still have it. Like right now I have personal preferences. I still love video games. I like doing certain things, reading certain things, talking about certain things, certain topics. That is still me. The ego. But there's so much more space. Like, I even noticed, so yesterday I did what's called the Shinshu Marathon, the like New Year's spring marathon on Iki. Is a half marathon, so 13-ish miles, 13.5 miles, 20 kilometers. It was really hard. And the last 3 or 4 kilometers, I was dying. I like literally like I didn't look. Okay, so I in one of my last videos, I micro fractured my right ankle back at the end of August. So I'm wearing my bracer during this thing. Like I'm pretty recovered. I've been doing long runs, 8-mile runs, like once a week, but 8 miles was kind of my limit. So that was my problem. I wasn't the most trained for this as I could have been. So I get to the 8-mile mark, and I'm just like, But no, the real hardest thing was the last 3 kilometers. Like the last, like maybe 5 kilometers. The last 3-ish miles, 2 miles were horrible. And then the last mile was like, my knees were literally about to buckle. And like 20 people passed me. I think I got 38th place or something. I probably could have gotten like 10th or 15th had my muscles been more conditioned, but maybe I'm still recovering from the microfracture. I don't know. But anyways, like the last mile, I was like, I cannot go any faster. I think my cardiovascular system was ready to go, but my muscles were just like, we're done. Like, if you go any faster, Trevor, we're going to break. So I just like, I slowed down as comfortably as I could, but my knees, the last half mile, were like about to pop. It felt like the backs of my legs were like this close to whatever. When I got to the straightaway, like the last 50 meters, or what would that be in US terms? Yeah, I'm getting used to the metric system. 50 yards. I don't know. The straightaway. It's basically a block. Yeah, like a city block, and you can see the finish, and there's just a straightaway. I started like going really fast because I was like, dude, even if I buckle here, like I'm so close. You know what I mean? Like, but throughout the run, I was letting go of this desire of like to feel like I had to win, to feel like I had to do my best. You know what I mean? Where it was very conditional on like time and, oh, people are passing me, oh, this isn't good. And I was letting that go and just being like, dude, I'm here in the moment. Like, I'm here, I'm running. Like, my original goal for before this run, because I had a very pragmatic, realistic understanding of where my body's at right now. I was like 2 hours, maybe more, but I'm aiming for 2 hours. I finished at like an hour and 44 minutes and like 30 seconds or so, like an hour, 45 minutes, which is actually really, really good. It's way better than I expected. And yeah, like 15 people passed me at the end. And I was so tired, like when people were cheering me on, like I was going to say, like, arigato gozaimasu, like thank you or whatever. But like I was so out of breath, except for occasional people, like people I knew, I would like put in the extra effort to like say thanks or whatever. But like I was just like bowing my head to like every person that I was passing, because I was like so out of it. But I made it. But I guess the point I wanted to make is that if it was me from before getting this bigger space between the ego and, you could say, a truer identity, like consciousness, awareness, and I'd say that's like the observer. And I feel like that's what we are closer to on a more basic level. We're not the ego, because anyone can become anything in an ego sense. You could be a doctor, you could be, a singer, you could be a dentist, you could be blah, 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 blah. And people will take those on and be like, this is me, I am a dentist. In terms of like, they associate themselves with the ego, which I don't think is exactly right. So even in this intense situation where my body's like really hurting, I have crazy muscle pain, lactic acid buildup, I'm heaving and puffing, it didn't feel like it was intense, of course. It'd be a lie to be like there's no physical intensity, but there was just this peace that even when I finished the run, I wasn't like I've only done one other half marathon in my life, like 4 years ago, and at the end of that, I was like, ugh, and I was like so dead, and I was just like, and it wasn't just physical exhaustion, it was like mental exhaustion, because I had been pushing myself by the shoulds and, oh, should do this, should be running faster, shouldn't let people pass you, should be passing people. And I didn't fully let it go during this run, but I did to some degree, and that like, even after the run ended, I felt so much energy. And I actually went surfing. So first I went to the onsen. I went to the hot springs with some friends, another friend who ran the 10K, not the 20K. And we went to a hot springs, and it was awesome. And then we were there for like an hour, a little more, and I went back home. And then I laid down on my bed here. Why don't I show it? I still have it. My futon set up. Yeah. I laid down here and I was just like chilling, like, oh, actually I could use a stretch right now. I was chilling for like, I know some people don't like me saying like that much, but I like saying like, no. I'm sorry. No, okay, I shouldn't get too off topic, but I'm doing a call with Paul Vanderklay this coming week, this Thursday morning, Japan time, Wednesday afternoon time in California, U.S. And I'm excited for that. And I'm thinking back to I was looking back because I added it to a playlist on this channel, like discussions or something. Because I think, if people are interested, I want to do more discussions with more people and like have its own like that as its own playlist. And I was looking back. I don't think I watched all of the old video, but I was reading through some of the comments to see, like, because some people asked me questions or stuff, and I hadn't checked it for like a year. So like, there was like a few new comments and I responded. And there's one comment that is just so funny. It's like, interesting conversation, but dude, this guy uses like too much, and I just couldn't listen to it. I was like, no, I was just like, oh my god, I'm using it again. What did I think I facetiously commented back, like, there it is again. I don't know. It's just, okay, back on topic. So, during the run, the more space between the ego. Yeah, okay, went to onsen. After onsen, laid down this awesome double futon setup I got here in this great room. Then, I had a prior arrangement with a friend of mine, Japanese friend of mine, very cool dude, surfer guy, who also, I think he does metalworking too, for his, like, main occupation. And he's like, I messaged him maybe a week ago. I was like, yo, would you want to go surfing? Because I don't have it in here. I usually have my wetsuit hanging up. Well, fine. Yeah, I'll show it. So there's my to-go business setup. I'm still living here, like, as if I've only been living here for, like, I don't know, like, what? Like, I've been here for like half a year, and like I probably should have found a better place. I think this is the first floor room. I'm probably gonna go sleep on the second floor room because I think that has more space and stuff. But basically, I usually have my wetsuit hanging there. The suits I just showed. I have my wetsuit hanging there, but it's drying upstairs. I air dry my clothes because I used it yesterday. But I wanted to try that bad boy out. It was so great. Like, the wind was cold, is so cold. It was, and I had the wetsuit on, so it was like my hands, my face, and my feet, because I wasn't wearing socks, just sandals, because I was, about to go in the water and go surfing. So yeah, go to a beach actually near where the race was, with my friend, and he's very nice. He lets me borrow one of his surfboards every time, because I don't have my own surfboard. I bought my own wetsuit. He let me borrow like a wetsuit that kind of fit me when we first went, just so I could see, like, oh, surfing something I'm interested in, just get a feel for it. And I am. So maybe I'll buy my own surfboard at some point, or maybe buy one of his surfboards. They're long boards, or is that what you call them? A long surfboard? Yeah. But yeah, the wind was so cold, but once we got in the water, it was like, it was so warm. Like, the water was warmer. And yeah, so that's one example. Like, my legs were obviously a little shot, but there actually weren't any real waves. So like, we just paddled around the beach we go to. There's like a good sized patch of ocean, and then the beach. It's a beach, ocean, and then like a little further out, there's like a patch of rocks. It looks like artificial, like someone put it there as maybe in case of like a tsunami or something coming, like those rocks will help break the wave so that the coast doesn't get as slammed. So it looks like a seawall sort of thing. So we paddled around that, and despite there not really being any waves, it was still actually pretty I'm checking the time. I don't have my glasses on because look, okay, I'll put them on, but like if I put them on, see, there's like a glare. I don't know. I don't like that. But okay, so basically the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, I guess I should tie this back into truth and peace. The point from this thing that like I still have energy and there's this space I found from my ego is that through following like the letting go technique. So if you watch the other video I made, or there's other videos, I think a few other people I think they've made maybe better videos than I have on explaining excuse me, the technique. So another good thing is the Wim Hof method, but I won't digress into that. I'm going to tie this back into the peace and truth. So this is going to get a little deeper as a little disclaimer. And I don't know, I was imagining that I'd get really emotional, but now that I'm doing it, maybe not. Like before this, I was actually getting emotional and like teary and sad. Well, like sad, but like it's that weird sort of, it's like in Christianity, there's this concept of agape or brotherly love, neighborly love. And I really like that. I think a truer love, or at least a more encompassing love, is this love that loves regardless of anything, regardless of race, creed, sex, nationality, all of it. In some sense, this form of love is such that it recognizes all these other categories, these language, these terms, as false. The only thing that's true is God, or you could say truth. There's many ways of saying however you conceive of it. Basically, it's the idea that ego is false. And so all of our mental constructs and emotions and sufferings tied into that is kind of made up. And that doesn't mean it's insignificant. That's where some people, like Jordan Bates might say with Jed McKenna, who wrote like Spiritual Enlightenment, The Damnedest Thing. I really like that Jed kind of teeters, or at least in his writing seems to teeter on a sort of void worship, where there's almost a lack of compassion. There's a lack of, this feel that you should help people, that you should, do good acts and stuff and help people who are suffering, and recognize that, yeah, it's technically false on some level. But dude, if someone doesn't know these things and they haven't put in the work and they haven't sought out truth realization and they're just living their lives completely identified with the ego, then everything they're feeling is real to them 100%. And there has to be that sympathy there that you're like, yes, like that means you don't have to join them in the drama. So if you see someone suffering, you don't have to beat yourself up over it and suffer yourself, because you recognize on a deeper level, on a higher level, lower, whatever it is, on a different level of being, their suffering is false, or at least it's unnecessary. That's how I like viewing it. Because I feel like that allows for compassion, and that's it really gets me sad sometimes though, because and this hits me real close to home, literally, because within my family and my friend groups, and I see it in the microcosm of my life, but the conflicts going on in the world are like here in my life. And I feel like, and this is where I wanted to talk about peace and truth, and why I think peace is truth, in a sense. The other book I've been reading recently, Your Eternal Reality. Let me check the author real quick, just so you can find him easier. Your Immortal Reality by Gary R. Bernard. Can I get that in there? No. Yeah, okay, whatever. It's my Kindle. I'm reading it through Kindle. But it's a great book. I think it's a good counterbalance to Jed, so keep a lookout for that. I'm like halfway through it, so probably I'll be... I actually am maybe starting to speed up on finishing it, so maybe I will have a similar hour-ish length video on Mr. Gary and Your Immortal Reality, because I feel like it balances against Jed's perceived lack of compassion, whether or not he actually... I mean, he's sort of like... I think the criticism some have made of Jed is that it's more like Jed just does his own thing and he will help those who seek him out. But some people say, well, couldn't you be helping more people? Like if Jed made a YouTube channel and he tried to connect with other people, or just get people who aren't technically on the path or a path towards truth realization, get them interested. Like, and some people would say, well, that's your ethic imperative. And that gets into shoulds and woulds, and like, technically, in theory, if you're more aligned with whatever is, there shouldn't be a should. There should. Oh my god. Yeah. How are you supposed to say this? Got him. Yeah. Ooh. Shoulds probably will disappear. There we go. In the sense that saying you should do this, you should do that, are predicated on some egoic level. I think the criticism made against Jed that I've heard is maybe he's not as enlightened or realized or aligned as he thinks he is. Because if you're more aligned, maybe you will naturally start giving more and creating. Like what I'm doing right now, I think I'm getting closer to this point where, like, even before making this video, I was worrying, like, oh no, am I going to mess something up? Is it going to... But anyways, let's bring back. To peace and truth and what I was talking about earlier. But I feel that with my own family and my friend groups and acquaintances I have, it's just like, I wrote about this in my senior thesis in college, but it's just like, it's painful still for me, because it's like I see all these problems on the horizon and I feel like I understand them on a deep level, like on this very intimate level, where, like, I know where they're coming from. I know that. Well, that's what makes it so hard. You know, it's like when I'm doing interpretation between Japanese and English Japanese, for people who don't know both languages, I'm that bridge. So I know what each side is trying to say, and I've noticed it in interpreting. There's always that gap, you know, because you don't have the time, or my skills just they're not perfect. I'm not a professional interpreter. Like, I do other things. I do a translation, American cultural activities, other things working here through the JET program. So it's not just interpreting like a professional interpreter, but even then they might run into occasional blocks. But for me, what I've noticed, and I view this as the same thing with differences of opinion or belief or ideology or religion, is that the root core of pretty much everyone is good. It's complete. It's whole. And it's just all this ego that gets in the way that is blocking it. So in Buddhism, they call this Buddha nature. In Christianity, they call it Christ, the light of Christ in you, or whatever you call it. There's maybe other things in Hinduism. Maybe it's Atman, and there was something else. There was like a negative term of that, like the balance of it. But Atman and Brahma, you know, so there's Brahma, all of existence, and then Atman, which is like all of existence as you. So you are all of existence, and all of existence is you. So there's sort of this oneness. And I really got that sense when talking with those ladies, because, well, I go on later in the post to say that it turns out, like, the last little bit of the conversation, I don't even think they said they were Jehovah's Witnesses, but we exchanged business cards, and they had like a little jh.org or .com, whatever it is. And so in the post, I made the point, and because it was a big impression on me, because my friend, once we finished the conversation with the ladies, and we're like, oh, thanks, you know, thank you so much. It was great talking with you. Have a great day. We walked our own way. Like, my friend was focusing just on, like, them being Jehovah's Witnesses, where I was like, yeah, but that doesn't really matter, bro. Like, it was a great conversation. Like, it revealed to me things I, like, were kind of in my mind, but, like, they just asked it. It's almost like because they asked it, I discovered consciously what was in me, you know, that I do believe peace is possible. And in the post, I think, what did I say? I said that peace is not only possible. I said, okay, so I'll read this, because I think I wrote it pretty well, and I like how I phrased it. So I went to the Nagasaki Peace Park around an hour ago. It made me think of the extreme oddity of life, the preciousness of life. Viewing the monuments and a later conversation with 3 strangers also inspired in me a powerful spirit. Peace is possible and true. And it got me thinking to this. When I wrote that peace is possible and true, the book I'm reading now, Your Immortal Reality, they call it the peace of God. So you should read the book if you're interested in spirituality. Like, read it alongside Jed. The other book that I'd recommend is Letting Go by David Hawkins, or some of Eckhart Tolle's books. For me personally, I don't think you should ever worship someone and be like, oh, like, I'm going to listen to whatever you say, you're 100% right. No, it's almost like you use people, that sounds bad. You rely on the teacher's teachings to get yourself to a more advanced level, deeper in the journey. And then when you no longer need them because you've reached a different level or stage in your life, that's what they say, if you see the Buddha on the road, kill him. It's like you rely on the teacher's teachings, on the teachings of whoever you're learning from, until they are holding you back. And when they start to hold you back, once you've already incorporated all the goodness in them, get rid of it. So, like, maybe I'll even do a thing where I go back on old videos and be like, yeah, this point was kind of dumb, or like, yeah, it was kind of like made sense at this point in my life. But so that's another reason why. Whatever. This get on a tangent. Another tangent. Let's bring it back. Now I have to remember what I was talking about. Okay, yeah, peace is possible and true. So this got me thinking about truth realization. What do I mean? Well, I was thinking of, from the book, Gary's book, Your Immortal Reality, when he talks about the peace of God as this liberating force that breaks you from the cycle of reincarnation. So, all this in his book, it's this weird approach where it's like Christianity, in the sense that they rely on, I guess, teachings from Jesus Christ, or like Jesus Christ as an exemplary model of how to live an excellent life and come to truth realization, essentially. And so the peace of God is, another way of saying it would be truth realization, nirvana, enlightenment, however you want to phrase it, that's fine. What it points to is a point of being, of existence, of existing, where you recognize the, I guess, inherent falseness of most things, of many things, and like the falseness of death, of even life, like the distinctions between things are kind of, they're made up. And I mean, yeah, if you want to, yeah, I say post in the comments or like stuff. Yeah, we could have a discussion on this. Like, I'm also not decided. And at the same point, this gets back to what I was just saying literally a few seconds ago. You use teachings up to a point, and then once they're kind of holding you back, you get rid of them. So the ideal, at least for me, what I'm thinking right now would be you use beliefs and all these things until they are ironically the force preventing your further spiritual, mental, psychological progress. And so in that sense, you're not attaching emotional, because that's ego significance. So I was actually just listening to Alan Watts, I'm pretty sure, talk about letting go. And he talked about the Buddhist, maybe it was Zen Buddhist or just Buddhist in general, the student who comes to the Buddhist master who says, I'm suffering so much, how do I get rid of the suffering? And all these bad thoughts and desires, it's bothering me, man. How do I get rid of these? And the Buddhist master says, well, go out and, just try and get rid of those thoughts. And I know this from meditative experience. When you actively try and get rid of things, they just more come. You cannot try to get rid of things. And so to condense it, because he talked, I think it's useful. If you want to watch it, maybe I'll post that link to that video, because it was good in the description. But the short of it is, the student eventually realizes, wait a second, but if I'm trying to get rid of my desires, but I desire to get rid of my desires, isn't that a desire too? And isn't that also based in ego? Ping pong, yeah, that's it, da-da-da. And the Buddhist master's like, yeah. And then I'm sorry, it's an Australian kind of slang my friend taught me a few weeks ago. But yeah, nah is like, yeah, no, I'm good. And then yeah, nah, yeah is like, yeah, maybe. Yeah, sure. Sort of like feel. But anyways, back on top. Monkey mind. This. I should just call this video Monkey Mind and Peace and Truth or something. But the Buddhist master, yeah, in order to reach truth realization, you have to, in some sense, desire it at first. But then once you realize through the futility of it, that desiring to stop your desires is a desire, the real secret to getting rid of desires is to just let go of wanting to get rid of desires and to also let go of desires at the same time. But you can't want it. You can't want it from a place of ego. It has to come from a place beyond you. So this is why I think in religions they have great truth in saying, put your faith in God. And it's great wisdom because it's trying to get away from your ego. And that doesn't always work, and maybe there's better methods because some people will create an ego projection image of God. And I feel like that strays away. And what do I mean by this? I mean, people say God is X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. God hates gays. God is like a father. He's masculine. He blah, blah, blah. He helps me find my car keys. Throw that out. It's trash. If you want some good theology, I'm sorry, it's trash. Some strong opinions coming from me to say, gotta let these go. But man, I gotta let it go. But where I stand from a theological stance, that makes the most sense to me if you're trying to describe God in any way, is like my boy Maimonides, or even I think Aquinas, St. Thomas Aquinas. I don't know if he did negative theology, but Maimonides' negative theology, definitely. Great Jewish theologian, philosopher. I think maybe some Islamic philosopher. Who was he? Oh, freak. I'm forgetting his name, but like he was great too. I think he was big on negative theology. Maybe he was big into Aristotle too, and like actually a lot of other Islamic adherents at the time. I think accuse him of heresy because he's basically trying to slide into those DMs where he's like, anything that disagrees with Aristotle in the Quran, we should interpret metaphorically. So the Quran stuff that doesn't agree with philosophy is just metaphorical. And a lot of people are like, no! And I'm sure a lot of people would still be like that today. But would be very curious. This is why I disagree with some people I know who say that Islam and the more extreme elements cannot change and basically become more moderate. Like a lot of Christianity has become. Dude, like in the Middle Ages, it was like more. There was a lot of moderate branches. The problem is it was snuffed out. But yeah, people could totally revive that. Like there's a lot of rich history, and good stuff. I think in every religion, but what should I say? What are we at? We're at 43 minutes. Oh my god, I gotta end this. Okay, maybe this will be the Sunday mind dump. How about that? Sunday mind dump? Yeah, because like I feel bad if this is like gonna be my video quality where I'm just going back and forth. I don't want to do that to people. Like I don't think I'd want to watch that, especially because unlike my last video, this is not like when I did my hour-long video of Jed, it was like broken down, and I did type out a like half page thing of like what are the main points I want to break Jed into. Yeah, I might actually, maybe I'll upload this, but in the future maybe I'll do a more compressed version when I think about this more of Truth and Peace, because this was kind of just I guess an overall, these are like way too many things in one. But anyways, continuing, I guess I'll go back to Truth and Peace. So, like the book Your Immortal Reality talked about the peace of God, right? It's this awareness of truth such that, according to the book, the metaphysical state of reaching that point of awareness is breaking the cycle of life and death. So immortal life, maybe, I don't know. Basically reaching that. So yeah, I guess no, this is still maybe a good video because I think it captures where I'm grappling with these ideas, because like when I think of, it was so weird going to the Peace Park and, being American and knowing that the US dropped these bombs. It's just weird because that was literally just like 70, 80 years ago. So not too long ago. There's still, I think, a few people left, maybe, who were still alive during World War II time in Japan. I think the last American alive during World War II died a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And it shows like this sort of ephemeral nature of, I guess, relationships. And so a lot of people, I mean, I too would hope for continued peace, but I'm not naive. I know that the ego can be very vicious, and parts of my ego really likes that viciousness. It really, really loves it, gets off to it. So that's just the truth. So where's the way forward? Where's this peace and truth thing come into play? And I think it comes into play in the fact that peace is truth. And I don't mean peace in the sense of like, oh, we're not at war, we're at peace. I mean peace in your life. Peace in your sphere of influence. And Jordan Peterson and other people talk about this too. But you are way more influential than you think. I don't know where this video is going to go. I don't know where my YouTube channel is going to go. I don't know where my websites are going to go. I'm working on a personal blog that'll cover like my times in Japan and stuff in general, like blah blah blah. This is what I'm doing, called trevorwest.life. You can check that out. I'll put it in the description. And then the other website, lifefurther.com, where I will be explicitly or more so focusing on topics like this, like self-cultivation, spiritual development, self-development, figuring stuff out about things, philosophy, religion, psychology, neurology, science, whatever is in that topic of betterment, and trying to, I guess, make ourselves better. Because the way I think about it, it's like, what else do we have to be doing on this planet? And that's why it always hits me. And like when I was reading the mural at the park, about this girl fucking drinking oily water, and this is where I totally agree, where like Jed falls short. If he really is a void worshiper and say, oh, well, dude, it doesn't matter, man. Like, tell that to that girl drinking oily water. You know what I mean? Like, I guess if we lived in a world where everyone did have way more space between ego and a greater understanding of a sort of higher level of existing, of a more sincere, truer way of existing, where you do have greater peace. You let go of things, and you go with the flow, and it's like you're on the ocean waves and you're going up and down, and you're just like, you're not anything. You're just there. You're just observing. Negative thoughts will come by. Like when I was surfing the other day, I was thinking, dude, what if a shark comes and like bites my leg off? Because where I live, in the office I work at, there was a sighting of 2 to 3 hammerhead sharks. I think 2 meters long each. So for those with metric problems, 2 meters would basically be, where's the camera? Yeah, okay. Oh, did I get it? Like, okay, so this is not exactly my arm spans like this. This might be a meter. A meter, I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna mess this up, and it's gonna be all over the internet. Okay, let me check this. I'm pretty sure 1 meter is like 3 feet in the Yeah, I was correct. 3 feet 3 inches. Yeah, so if there's like 1, 2, yeah, it's basically my Or was my arm span how tall you are? Either way, imagine that. So they're like as tall as me. They're 6 foot. They are 6 feet long sharks. So like, yeah, they can nibble something off of you. But the other concern when swimming in the ocean is jellyfish. Supposedly they come during this season, and just. But it's so weird. Like when I was in the ocean, those thoughts passed through the other day when I was paddling on the surfboard, my wetsuit, and they like came in and they came out and they left, and then I thought I saw some dark object below the surface of the water, and I thought it was a rock, and I asked my friend like, "Yo, what is that? Is that like a rock or something?" He's like, "Yeah, maybe." He like literally he dived down. And he like he took up he got a little leaf. It was like a seaweed. It was like a little seaweed coral rock, and he like had a little seaweed leaf. I was like, yeah, like he's more in tune than I am, dude. I could feel that because like a little bit of fear I could feel like came into me, and it's just like, oh, there I'm using like again. Just going on this path, trying to learn more, get closer to truth, to peace, doesn't mean you should be throwing all these shoulds and woulds into it. And it gets complex though, right? Because the suffering is very real, but it's also completely false. And some people might want to pick one side. They want to say, no. It's all BS. It's all false. All the suffering stuff, it's all the people suffering, they're fake. They're straw men. They're straw people. They're not real. And then the other side is the total ego. The other extreme is the total ego identified state that says, oh, the suffering is super real. It's so real. Life is suffering. It's so, And so what, and listening to Alan Watts, the video I'll post in the link. Post in the description. What Alan Watts was talking about is Buddhism is the middle way. So what Alan Watts talked about the original Buddha doing is he did what a lot of Hindu older men and women, or maybe it's more so men, but just older people do, is once they retire, a lot of people will renounce their names and go live in the forest, become like forest people, and take on a life of asceticism. So living on very little food, starving yourself, etc. Buddha did that for 7 years, and he did not reach enlightenment, because you will not reach enlightenment through asceticism, and you will not reach enlightenment through egoic gratification. He talked about the middle way. And that's what I've always been attracted, maybe since learning about Buddhism and stuff as like a kid, as a teenager, is this idea that neutrality is like the highest goal. Equanimity, I think, is the fancy word Alan Watts used, and I think it captures the essence of peace. Maybe equanimity is a better word. Like, it just, that flow where there's ups and there's downs, but ultimately surrounding those ups and downs is the truth of the underlying just isness of it. I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah, and this is where language will fail, but I don't know if I made a good enough argument for saying why peace is truth, at least this form of peace, or what some call the peace of God, what some people call the peace, that can come from accepting everything, resisting nothing, from a sort of enlightened state, from a truth-realized state, where one recognizes no matter what happens, it's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's perfect. And this gets to the confusing thing, because then when we look at moral dilemmas like the U.S. nuking Japan because Japan was at war and this was a part of the war, and it's all this anger and conflict and destruction and suffering, arguably needlessly. You look at the origin, right? World War II, it was blah, 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 blah. Europe went to war because this guy was assassinated here and they were in an alliance there and blah, 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 yeah. And then like, or was that World War One and then World War Two is just Germany strikes back again. But either way, these sorts of conflicts that happen because they're predicated in, you could say in the international relations terminology, in a realistic framework that is predicated in fear that is based in ego. It's based in this idea that we need security because other people otherwise will attack us. And there's this weird state where it's almost like, and you think, so going back to like tragedies and arguably I'd say needless suffering, like the nuclear bombings of Nagasaki or Hiroshima, or other fire bombings that were really horrific as well in Japan or across the world or anywhere in wartime, a lot of examples to go into that I'm not going to here. But in a sense, and this is where this definitely jives and goes against dualistic morality, is it's all perfect. It's all complete. And perfect not in the sense that the connotation of good or connotation of like this is desirable, just because that's dualistic moral sense making, but that everything is complete, so that even in the nuclear attacks, even in fire bombings of Japan or attack on Pearl Harbor or any given conflict, in every single moment, even in the dualistic sense of those hellish transformations of nuclear radiation where you're vomiting and you're drinking the oil water that's going to kill you because you are going to die otherwise because you're so thirsty. Even in those horrible moments, there is equanimity. And I know that's hard to grasp. I got a little intimation of it yesterday during the run when I literally felt like my knees were going to pop. But yet I still felt at peace. I still knew it was going to be okay. And the other team would be like, well, Trevor, like the people who got radiation sickness, most of them died. Death isn't okay. And this gets to another point where, in the non-dualistic sense, death doesn't really exist. And you say, well, Trevor, like when someone dies, they're not moving, dude. They're gone. They're gone. And the main issue here is that people are perceiving that what we are these bodies. And really, we might be, or we might not be. I still take kind of an agnostic stance. So I don't like, and I think it gets better to not getting stuck in these beliefs, because maybe I'm spewing nonsense and I will look back on this and be like, what was I talking about? We don't know. What I'm trying to say is, and Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning does a great job of this, where it's like in those hellish pits of the Nazi German concentration camps, people became the most appreciative of nature, got the closest, that many in their lives had gotten to God, to their religion, their spiritual connection. Even in those moments of great turbulence, there's that feeling of equanimity, of connection. I felt it surfing the other day. Like, I'm on these waves, and while I'm feeling this space between me and the ego, and the ego is afraid of, what if the tide takes me out and I die, or I suffer, or I drown? What if a shark attacks me? What if a jellyfish stings me? What if I break something? What if I slam into the rocks? Etc., etc., etc. In the space where I was just there. And that's all there was. And yeah, maybe I'll end it here. I think this is a good spot to end. I hope that it was a little all over the place. I apologize. I'm literally just at an hour, so maybe I will facetiously try and end it right on the hour. I guess, yeah, the point I was trying to make is peace and truth are kind of the same thing in at least this sense, at least in how I conceive of it now. But yeah, like and subscribe if you like it. Leave comments. Let me know what you think. I'm not settled on these things. I'm, never settled, never give up. Never give up. Thank you.